M&A entrepreneurs. Today, my guest, or having back, is Blake Hutchinson, CEO of Flippa, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, business online e-commerce SaaS business site on the internet selling businesses. So today, we're actually going to talk about a new product he's got, some data insights, because all of that information a business is buying, users using it, is telling us a lot of information about what's happening in the world of selling businesses. So let's talk about that, Blake.
Yeah, awesome, John. Thanks for having me back on the show. It's nice to see you. Hello to all the listeners. Really excited. We're obviously benefited by just seeing so much buyer intent. We get a feel for what they want. We obviously then get a feel for the multiples that derive from the businesses and exits that we see on the platform. So yeah, we've essentially built data insights, and we're going to make that freely available to everyone out there in the community. And by the time this episode goes live, John, we will be up and going, so everyone will get the benefit of that. And I'm going to show you that today.
Great. I want to give you access to this share. All right.
Yep, I've got you, John.
All right.
So, yeah, the coolest thing about the industry that we're operating in is, one, it's still very nascent. So there's a lot of people out there doing it for the first time, looking for something to acquire. They're interested in getting a sense for what's out there. And as you know, we've got SaaS assets, e-com, content sites, iOS and Android apps. We've recently expanded into YouTube channels, newsletters, and very shortly we'll have plugins, Chrome extensions, APIs, agencies, and a bunch of other categories as the industry begins to, I guess, explode, for want of a better description. Now, underpinning Flippa is, of course, all of this buyer demand. And from that buyer demand, we're able to get sentiment analysis. And of course, we're then, as I alluded to, able to get a very, very good sense for how the market is behaving. So the Flippa Data Insights product will soon be available. As I said, it's free. This is not a SaaS product. It's free. It's there to help people make informed decisions about where the market's going and where the world's going as it relates to the assets that we represent on our platform. So, without further ado, you get a feel for search intent. So this screen that we're looking at right now here, you can play with this, and you can play with this on a time-based interval. So what I'm looking at, just for everyone's benefit, is I'm looking at search intent. So this is what buyers look for on the Flippa platform. With all insights that we share, you'll be able to navigate by 7-day, 30-day, 3-month, and 12-month intervals. We are considering a 1-day interval, just for the fun of it. Things tend to change quite a lot. But just for the sake of it, I'll look at search intent for a 30-day interval. And so you can see here that this shows the most searched for categories as well as monetization types on the Flippa platform, John. So you've got
AdSense, blog, Shopify, travel, games, SaaS, Amazon. Interesting. AI. I would have thought AI would be up there.
Yeah.
I
mean, people are looking for a combination of AI and, SaaS, AI and app. What we've done is obviously strip those keywords out to give them their own counts and isolated those. You can even see more categories here: pets, health, those types of things. And it continues to go down. So you can browse all the way down to get a feel for any particular category. So you can see here music. Now, the reason this is really interesting is because people come to us and they say, do you have a buyer for my business? I have a business in the golf category. We say, well, yeah, sure. We can show you that for the last 30 days, there's been specifically 712 individuals who have gone to hunt out assets within that category. So that's good because it enables us to match up to that buyer.
Yeah. Otherwise, if you only had one person searching for golf in a 30-day period or 12-month period, why would I sell it on Flippa?
Exactly. So this is now there for the taking, and you can go and look at the difference between 3 and 12 months. You still got AdSense and blog. The top ones still tend to be the same. YouTube's been flying. So you can see here that over the last last 3 months, There's been 7,000 unique searches for YouTube as a category. So people are clearly hunting out YouTube assets.
YouTube channels or
Channels.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Typically faceless channels, as you would expect. Channels with high viewership, channels that are monetized through ads, and people are buying those now to capitalize on the audience as well as to tap into a particular category where they might be an e-commerce business or SaaS business operating, and they use that YouTube
To support the business. Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
KDP, Kindle Publishing. This is really interesting. We've started to work closely with an Italian-based community of KDPers, Kindle publishers, that is. And you can see here that there's starting to be good demand for KDP businesses. They're few and far between, but the buyers want them. So the keyword data is all there. People can now search and browse that. This will be live by the time this episode's live, John.
Yeah, it's publishing, right? Controlling the distribution of.
Yeah, totally. And of course, if people find this really interesting, they can print the charts, they can download the .csvs or the XLSs here, the Excel sheets. They can, of course, share it and use it for social purposes, whatever they want to do with it. And as we move down, it gets more interesting. So what we're looking at here is kind of the movement of particular categories. And this is pretty cool because if you look at, say, the last 30 days, what you can see is that for whatever reason, programmatic is up 238%. Now, I must admit, I can't actually tell you why, and it may also be coming off a low base, but people are probably looking for things like email outreach businesses, anything that might be programmatic by nature, has clearly seen, an increase in traffic for the last 4 months.
Tell me about WooCommerce, though. Why would just a e-commerce platform have that many searches in it? What did they do over, normally I would suspect to see Shopify. I don't. I see WooCommerce.
Yeah, it is interesting. I must admit, I can't comment as to why WooCommerce specifically has had a 400% increase in searches over a friend here. But sometimes you get a bit of a run on in these things. Like, it's either that there's some good sites listed that are WooCommerce sites, and then you get some word of mouth and virality around those particular assets. And then the best way for people to find them is to type in WooCommerce. Or it could be that there's been a run on generally of sites listed on Flippa that are WooCommerce sites, and people perceive them to be maybe more niched than Shopify businesses or Amazon businesses. But I am hypothesizing, John, I think that there's a bit of devil in the detail here that we need to get into as we look through each one of these keywords.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, if you look at the stock market and these smart investors, the inside investors can say, hey, it's peaking, time to get out, right?
Yeah. And look, some of these will be coming off a low base. We saw that before. You can see here bike. People are searching for bike, bicycle related, bicycle touring, bike e-commerce. So bike is up as a keyword. It just gives you some sense. What I like about this is, one, it gives you a sense of what smart investors are looking for, but secondly, it gives you a sense for, if you own one of these assets, the variability in the buy side intent.
Yeah, I want to be if I own the business, I want to be in a seller's market.
Yeah. And so Flippa will continue to expand on this, and we're going to take a feedback loop in from the community and obviously figure out what people want out of these insights. But it's coming straight out of the marketplace in real time. This is where it gets really interesting. Most people are scared to break down profit and revenue multiples. We've done this at a very, very transparent level now. So you can look at all assets. So we've broken it down currently, and we'll continue to expand this, but we've broken it down by e-com, Amazon, app, content, SaaS, service businesses, and then, of course, all categories. So we'll start there for the fun of it. You can see that the graph refreshes in front of your eyes, and then we can, of course, look at profit multiple or revenue multiple. So there's a couple of different distinguishing factors there.
What's the trends on e-commerce? Go back to that again.
Yeah, of course. So click e-commerce. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the average and the top decile. So you can see that, let's just do 2023 half two. So 2023 half two, the top decile was just 3 times profit multiple. Now, the average was lower than that, John, at 1.86, which is, good buying.
Yeah,
So
that's an attractive multiple. Yeah.
clearly, the froth has come out of that market for the moment, and it did trend down from half one, where the average was 2.52, and the top decile 3.5.
So what was happening, just to hypothesize, 2022, half two, where it's 4.11, was there less e-commerce, more buyers, law of supply and demand going on, or some macro event?
So what I will say generally right now is there is a lot of supply, and what I will say generally is that really good quality businesses are still receiving decent multiples. And so my hypothesis is in half two, not only did you have a lot of supply, which is still the case today, but you had buyers looking to snap up in what they considered a relatively compressed market or contracting market, the best e-commerce businesses. And they were probably scrambling over the few that were really good. And as you know, a lot of businesses coming out of latter 2021 and into 2022 started to decline a lot, but the best ones would command a premium.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
What I like to do in some of these is kind of play around a little bit, look at apps here and look at apps by revenue multiple. You can see that back into 2022, half two, there were some apps listed on the platform which were almost selling. Well, we're selling for nearly 8.5 times revenue.
Wow. Yeah, I saw one on a broker site, another smaller broker site that had a double-digit multiple on it, an app, and it was very concentrated. It was just on Apple, and there was risk on that. What about YouTube channels? What does that look like?
Oh, John, you've asked me the only one I couldn't answer for you right now.
That's coming. Let's say it's coming. Yeah.
And I apologize for that. The only reason we haven't indexed it yet is to be candid, we only launched YouTube channels on Flippa, I think 3 months ago. So we've only got 12 weeks of data.
Okay, gotcha.
The data kind of needs, it needs a bit of volume in it.
Yeah, it's not really.
This is fun here, John. So for those of you out there who don't know what I'm looking at flippa.com/data insights or data-insights. And what I'm about to show, John, is the buyer liquidity. And so what this shows is by market, I'll zoom in a little bit for John's benefit here, by market, how many buyers are currently active, what their average budget is, and the overall liquidity on the marketplace. And so I've just spun the little world globe within the data insights environment, and I've obviously zoomed in on the United States of America. You can see.
Cow. So that's just a multiplying by each other. Total buyers by the average budget is the
Correct.
overall budget. Okay.
Pretty rudimentary, bit of fun stuff. But the average budget for everyone's benefit is $237,000, and there's 136,000 active buyers in the US right now.
So the private equity would call that, we've got trillions in dry powder. This is $32 billion in dry powder.
Exactly. 32 billion in dry powder. Now, the definition of a buyer is someone who has actively engaged with a current asset, so negotiated on a current asset on the platform. Negotiation is simply, started to talk with the seller and or the broker on the platform as to the nature of the asset. But what's really fun is you can spin the globe, and no matter where you are in the world, you can get a feel for, for example, in India, there's 18,000 buyers. The average budget is substantially lower, half that of the US, as you would expect, $120,000, and you've only got $2 billion in dry powder, to use John's expression.
Yeah. Is Dubai on there? Just curious.
Yeah.
That's probably Yemen.
Where are we?
Kazan. It's into Saudi Arabia. It's just right on the same peninsula, right?
I know.
It's in the, yeah. I just had a conversation with somebody in Dubai, and it's a seller's market, just a lot of money, and they're buying all kinds of businesses. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. I was there not long ago, and boy, it's a great business environment. People are really dynamic, very ambitious, and of course, there's lots of money there. From Flippa's context, you can see the world globe says 2,943 buyers. So we're pretty light on in the UAE, admittedly.
Yeah.
Average budget $194,000. But, a bit of fun here. People can spin the globe and get a feel for. And the reason we did this is we get a lot of questions, less so from the Americans and more so from people out of Southeast Asia, as well as the UAE and even into some markets in Europe, where people say, well, do you have buyers for my asset? And the key thing here is, well, you can now clearly demonstrate that it's a very global platform.
So if I'm just curious, if somebody was a lot of product, I've seen a lot of products come out of the Ukraine, very smart people building stuff, but has a very short lifespan. Have you flattened the globe with being able to bring their products to United States and all the security levels you put in place, whether it's escrow or something like that, to make sure that the assets get turned over to this individual in the United States?
Yeah, so there's a few things we've done. I mean, one, we validate and verify all businesses over $50,000. For those businesses sub $50,000, then they go through the data verification, which is our integrated data. So 15 different data sources like Stripe, Shopify, Xero, QuickBooks Online, etc. For anything that's over $50,000, it's been human verified. As it relates to getting the deal done, there's a few things. All Americans now benefit from buyer insurance. So we launched a buyer insurance product. I think you may have seen
That's right, with Patrick Stroth.
Yeah.
Rubicon. Yeah.
So Rubicon, underwritten by CFC, and that is a really great reps and warranties insurance product for the buyers. Admittedly, it's also available on the sell side. So obviously a seller can insure their check in the event that, they've failed in the disclosure of something. Now that means you're insuring the business for the full EV, the enterprise value of the business. In addition to that, and that's something that we've had great uptake on. So I think we launched it maybe something like 12 weeks ago. And, we've seen over 20 American exits happen where the buyer has taken up that reps and warranties insurance product.
Yeah. How much does it cover? Does it cover the entire purchase of it or a portion identified?
Enterprise value. Entire enterprise value for 1% of the exit price, or 1% of the
that's pretty great. Yeah.
It's kind of a no-brainer. And let's face it, every other asset class is insurable, so why shouldn't this one be?
Exactly.
Now, the other thing to answer your question is, yes, we have a transition team, and the transition team operates on top of either escrow.com or operates on top of a Bank of America trust account, and they will ensure the safe migration of the assets, including obviously the safe transfer of the funds, subject to an inspection period, and the inspection period is dictated to and decided by the buyer. So there's protections in place. As a result of that, 67% of all deals on Flippa are actually cross-border, predominantly American buyer buying from a business located overseas, where that business has a foothold in the US.
Lovely.
Now, as you scroll down, there's something I like to talk about, which is time to match. Because a lot of people want to know, how long will it take me to find a buyer, and then how long will it take me to get my cash? And so what we've done is we've broken time to match down by price point. So for the sake of this, you and I will have...
Let me interrupt just to, what is this? Why were you trying to solve here? A sense of urgency? Said I need to sell now, or what was it?
So every seller that speaks to one of our brokers on the phone says, how long will it take me to sell? And how long will it take me before I start to get interest from the buyers? And then how long on average till I find my actual preferred buyer? Now, of course, Flippa does. And so why is that? I think, one, there's anxiety around the selling process. Two, most people have never sold anything of this value before in their life. So understanding that is quite critical. And then we needed to know it ourselves, because we needed to know it from the perspective of forecasting, but also Flippa likes to beat itself. And so we go head to head with our own benchmarks every quarter. And one of the benchmarks that we've started to go up against is time to match. Can we get buyers? Can we get your ultimate buyer interested in your business faster? And that's why we built our programmatic matching engine. So we're now doing 475,000 matches a week.
Wow.
And so it obviously differs by price point. This is really important because there's so much misleading guidance out in the market. People will say, oh, well, it takes a long time or it takes a short time, but it really does depend on the price point, because obviously there's only so many buyers in the world who can afford $5 million assets. So we'll just have a look at a couple of different price points. Feel free to direct me where you want me to go.
I'm just curious. Let's go to one extreme to the other. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we'll start very low, 100,000 to 150,000. This is time to match. It's not time to collect the cash. You can see here that the maximum we took to find you the preferred buyer that ultimately ended up acquiring your business was 182 days. Now, unfortunately, that's a very long time. So the upper quartile was 49 days and the median was 19 days. The lower quartile was 7 days. So clearly it can happen very fast if you've got a good quality business. All the metrics that matter are moving in the right direction. And of course, Flippa's matching algorithm finds you that person with very high intent at a very quick speed.
So if you had a new buyer coming on and you're just going to put this in front of them and say, here's what you're going to expect, basically just replacing a live person saying, hey, sometimes you could sell in 7 days, but the maximum you could sell in 182. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of just giving, you just want to give people a really honest feel for how long the process will take.
Interesting. Yeah.
Now, of course, go to $1 million plus. And what is interesting about it is the maximum is about the same, because clearly in the prior case, we had a business which took us 182 days to find the buyer for. In this particular case, we're talking about $1 million. The maximum actually didn't stretch beyond that. So the maximum it's taken us to match you up to the ultimate buyer who ended up paying for your business and acquiring it for $1 million plus asset is 153 days. But you can see that the upper quartile is a lot longer, so 65 days. Now, as we scroll down, now
I'm not really seeing that big a difference between the 100 and 150,000, to tell you the truth. Yeah, you've got a big strike zone here.
Yeah, now the reason that's important is because we have so many buyers. And so
338,000. That's amazing.
We're able to cluster up those buyers, programmatically match them up based on the categories that they're looking for, based on their mandates and their allocated budgets, and ensure that that cycle time is quick regardless of the price point. Now, where it gets a bit more interesting, though, is when you look at time to cash. So this is the time that it takes you to receive the cash in your bank account for the business you have sold. And so let's have a look at, for whatever reason, let's have a look at 500 to $1 million, $500,000 to $1 million. You can see
it's significantly double on that. Yeah.
You can see that now to collect my actual cash, get the cash in the bank, which is the critical question. You can see that the upper quartile is 111 days. We need people to know that selling a business is not only emotional for you, but it's also a lot of money for the buyer. So it doesn't happen overnight. And it's a really important comment that I'd like to make.
Yeah. Not a lot of people have $1 million in a bank account. They could just write checks with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, this is slowing down a little bit as access to finance is harder, and clearly high interest rate, high inflation rate environment, challenging macroeconomics, even the helpful content update from Google has slowed down everything because the due diligence periods that are increasing, the due diligence periods on these asset purchase agreements are actually increasing in length. So important there. And that's it, John. That's what we've got right now. It's a mix of obviously search intent data, trending search terms, profit and revenue multiples, the buyer liquidity, and the time to match. But we're going to build on this for everyone and ensure that they can actually benchmark their assets against the.
What is it? What was kind of surprising about this data, bringing it together, that you didn't expect to see?
Yeah, the first thing I would comment on is some of the categories that were consistent. So I would have thought that blog and AdSense businesses were drying up. The demand for those were drying up with AI, with some concern around the Google algorithm, with general belief.
Easy to create content, textual content. Yeah.
So that would be my first comment. My second comment was the rise of the gaming industry and the rise of the gaming category for Flippa. So we don't actually sell gaming assets yet, but there are a lot of people who are interested in gaming assets. And so
interesting. You don't sell them, but you've got, this is like number 6 or 7th on searches. Yes. Interesting.
So, and marketplaces are all about fill rate and liquidity and matching demand with supply.
We have no liquidity.
So it's crazy to think that you've got all of this demand, but you can't satisfy it.
Interesting.
So that was surprising for me, and we all kind of laughed at that one. Every other category and/or monetization type within the top 20 searches, we obviously can support very well.
When you roll this out to some of your power buyers, what did they say about, oh, this changed my mind about how I'm going to buy or what I need to buy, or did they still very disciplined about their direction?
Well, first comment I would make is there's very few people in the world who have seen this right now. So this is actually not live. This will go live next week. By the time this show's live, it will be live. So there's very, very little live feedback loops coming in just at this stage. We've obviously shown it to people like you today and a few other power buyers. For the most part, what people want to know out of this insights is, do I have a business which is sellable on the Flippa marketplace? And that's probably use case number one. And then secondly, am I buying into an asset class that other investors also agree is an asset class or type to buy into? And I'd say before they check their strategy and for the most part will maintain it.
I do have a question. This is very interesting about the multiples that are, listed and actually sold. Because you go anywhere else on any other broker site and they believe they can get 3, 5, 7x. And that's not exactly what's happening on a volume level.
No, it's not. And for the most part, the asking price is never the selling price. So, we see people use the Flippa price drop feature, and brokers can use that. The individual can use that. The broker can negotiate with the individual and use that. And on average, we're seeing a 32% price drop through the sales process from list price to sell price.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So it's just important that we're transparent and honest around how the industry actually works, and then the actual realistic price points, the fair market value, if you will.
Yeah. Now, could that be used as a double-edged sword, knowing this information?
Yes, it can,
Yeah.
albeit because we have so many buyers, it will tend to be that the buyers will give you a guide for how they feel you have priced the asset. So we are okay. Let's be candid here. We are okay with a seller, and we're obviously talking about a degree of reasonableness here, but we're okay with a seller dictating that they go live with a asking price above and beyond the Flippa listed multiples. We are okay. Because buyers are savvy, they will control fair market value. And John will jump in and say, within a confidential environment, a private environment, which we call the deal room, Blake, I really like your asset. Thanks for listing it for $10 million, but how does $7.5 million sound? Now, that's clearly a 25% decrease in what my asking price is. But behind the scenes, maybe I'm willing to take $7.5 million cash on a $10 million ask.
Yeah, man, definitely might make sense if there's a rollover or something else. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Blake Hutchins, that's pretty amazing. Love the information. More data we have, it kind of levels the playing field as far as arbitrage. So, and again, I'm always just amazed at these multiples. They're not the 5, the 7, the 10 or 40 that you're seeing out there. This is real life because there's volume. Blake Hutchinson, thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, John. Appreciate your time.
All right.